My mom and dad took me to my first opera when I was a teenager. There was a performing arts center in my hometown, and they weren't opera fans, and I'd never been to an opera, and they just thought it would be fun. The opera was Boris Godunov, Mussorgsky opera. Norman Treigle was the Boris, and I didn't know that at the time, but that's a big deal because he was amazing. And I was just flabbergasted. It was so beautiful. It was the sets and the costumes and a billion people on stage, and there was a live horse who pooped. It was everything that could happen happened on that stage. And it really stayed with me. And so that was my introduction to opera, and I've been a fan ever since. What is my favorite opera? That's really hard because there are so many that I love. Tristan and Isolde is up there because it's one that I listened to as a young man. I listened to the Kristen Flagstead recording, and I just was so moved by the end of that opera that when I finally got a chance to see it, I was overwhelmed to see it in the flesh. But I also love La Traviata. That music, that story just gets me. I was just at the end of summer walking through the plaza in front of the Metropolitan Opera. I live in New York. And they had filled the plaza with chairs and put up a giant screen, and they were screening a wonderful high-def video of their most recent production of La Traviata. So I sat down with about a million other New Yorkers of all sorts and conditions. There were families there were business people, there were crazy opera fanatics, everyone. And we all just sat, and they played this beautiful music out under the stars, and I just wept because it was so gorgeous. And then I walked home, and I was a better person for having sat through it. So I think those are probably my two favorites, Tristan and La Traviata, anything with a T. I used to be on a television show, Frasier, and I played a guy one of two brothers who were opera fanatics, and we were very snooty, and we drank wine, and we loved opera. And the reality was I didn't actually know that much about opera in real life. And this wonderful actor, John Mahoney, played our dad in this show, and he played this blue-collar guy who was a retired policeman, and he couldn't care about opera, and he'd rather have a beer and watch a game. Well, in reality, John Mahoney, although he would love to have a beer and watch a game, is also a huge opera fan. And during the course of my 11 years of working with him, he got me more and more excited about opera. We share recordings. I would visit him in Chicago, where he lives, and go to the Chicago Lyric, and he took me to my first live production of Tristan and Isolde, and changed my life. And so he really was a key figure in getting me more and more involved in opera. And then since I've been back in New York after the TV days, just through being in the business and sort of being a performer in New York, many people in the opera world have become friends of mine, singers, directors, designers. So I have been able to come to the world of opera as a friend, as a colleague, which gives me a much more intimate experience of it, being backstage, going to rehearsals, being on a board of opera advisory councils. I work with the Opera Philadelphia for their New Works Advisory Council. I've just gotten completely drawn into the world of opera, and I love it. You know, what opera does for me is it, some people say opera changes their life, and I could certainly say that. But I think the most important thing it does for me is it gives me my life back. You know, we all have, we're dealing with the craziness of everyday life all the time. And you're stuck in traffic and you're angry, or someone gets a job that you thought you were going to get, and you get jealous. But at the opera, when people get crazy, they get crazy. And when they get angry, they get angry. And when they're jealous, well, you know what I was going to say. So what happens is you go and you experience all these things that you experience in your daily life, but on such a huge level that all these emotions and feelings, they sort of get purified. They become this gigantic, amazing, beautiful, wonderful experience, and you walk out sort of cleansed. Opera it's like a car wash for your soul.